Certainly thank you to everybody who came out tonight to the Community Engagement Forum, everybody watching at home post-tape, courtesy of Alan and his team at JATV. My name is Nick Faust. I'm the Communications Specialist in the City Manager's Office. And tonight our topic is going to be the 2021 Resident Satisfaction Survey. As staff, I had the pleasure of being the liaison for the project. And I'm excited to maybe share a little more about the survey results, some analysis we did, and then maybe gather some feedback on some recommendations moving forward. So a brief sort of introduction to the survey. The city sought to do this to assess perceptions and attitudes on a variety of topics. Kind of grouping them together into categories. We wanted to kind of take some indicators on quality of life in Janesville, assess municipal services and programs, how residents are satisfied with those, the economic health and development of our community, assess residents' perceptions on things like city leadership, employees, and certainly how we communicate and how we respond to our residents. It was developed by city staff. We had question assistance with faculty from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. We partnered with those political science folks to actually do the development and then really the administration of the survey and the analysis, because those college folks can do that much better than I could. In distributing the survey, I should say, we utilized Qualtrics, which is a popular platform of online survey taking. It's just an interface that's very simple and easy to use. It was community-wide and it was opt-in, meaning that the city basically published a link, advertised that link through press releases, newspaper ads, social media, etc. And folks could visit that URL and take the survey. What was neat about the Qualtrics platform was it would only allow one respondent per IP address, meaning that folks couldn't then go in and submit the survey multiple times to really magnify their voice. And in total, we had about 600, or we did have 636 households respond. I caveat that by saying that we had a usable response rate of about 500 respondents per question, that being the survey results where we had demographic information and stuff to a satisfactory level that we could actually do analysis on it. The methodology of the survey, we used 32 close-ended questions to gauge perceptions, and then we also included 6 open-ended questions where folks could elaborate and speak a little more freely on their sentiments. Our close-ended questions used a basic Likert scale, either 6-point or 10-point, if you think about the extremely dissatisfied to the extremely satisfied. And it included don't know and neither responses, which is important because when we asked questions on things like the library or recreation programs, we didn't want folks to feel compelled to respond one way or another if they just didn't simply interact with that municipal function. So that category allowed folks to kind of select the questions that they wanted to share their attitudes on. The analysis, it was descriptive statistical analysis, again done by the faculty at Whitewater. They collapsed scale categories to make the analysis more effective. What that means is if, for example, on a 10-point Likert, you indicated 6 through 10, which would be the satisfaction categories or being satisfied, that was collapsed into just a simple satisfied category for analysis. Because it was an opt-in community-wide survey, we had to control for some demographic skews. Primarily, our respondents skewed older, so we had more older senior residents actually return surveys than live here, as represented by our census data. So that was normed for age to kind of more evenly distribute responses across the range of our actual demographics. Might be a bit small on the screen, but here you can actually get a look at the appendix from the final report indicating our demographic profile. We can see that 50 plus may accounted for over half, I would say, of our survey respondents. We got slightly more females than males. We had a nice mix of education levels. We skewed a little more white than our actual community makeup. And we also skewed a little more heavy to folks that have lived in Janesville for more than 10 years. So certainly some tenured residents felt compelled to fill this out. To kind of overview at the top, just some notable findings for folks, some fast facts. 75% of residents indicated that they were very satisfied or satisfied with the quality of life in Janesville. Slightly less than 50%, however, found that Janesville was welcoming of all residents, regardless of race or religion, so certainly an area of opportunity there. And then for city services, fire, police, parks and rec facilities, they enjoyed great success in the satisfaction categories. Over 75% were satisfied or very satisfied with those services. Same for the utility, over 2/3 of residents indicated that they were very satisfied or satisfied. As for economic questions, generally 69% of residents perceived the community to be in good economic health by their measure. For leadership employees and communication, city employees enjoyed a response rate of the majority being that they treat residents with respect, which was certainly something we like to hear in that. However, another area of opportunity perhaps is only 38% of residents indicated a trust in city leadership. The caveat there being that 29%, so almost 30% of the respondents responded neither trust nor distrust. So that could be a great area to explore further, to maybe have those folks interact with city officials or employees a bit more. To get into really the categories and then kind of give us some insight into the statistical analysis, in our quality of life survey section, of course, the city is a good place to live. 76% when rounded up agreed with that statement. Only 15% of respondents didn't agree that Janesville was a good place to live. And we might get quite small, so I'll read them out here. But on perceptions of quality of life factors and the city of Janesville, 76% indicated that Janesville is, again, a good place, or a safe place to live, I should say, as well. 75% said it was a good place to start a family. 45% said it was a good place to find a job or a career, with 24% being sort of ambivalent. They didn't know. Perhaps they don't work or they've never found a career in Janesville. 35% indicated it's a good place to start a business. Again, the majority being that neither agree nor disagree, where they perhaps haven't had any entrepreneurial efforts to base that on. And then 45%, so a majority again, indicated that Janesville is a good place to retire. Getting into some statistical analysis on those questions, we did find some demographic indicators basically saying that any respondent over 25 had a higher likelihood to agree that Janesville is a good place to live, meaning that our opportunity area in this section was really that 18 to 24-year-old group that would be more inclined to disagree. They still agreed as a majority that it's a good place to live, but we had higher likelihoods of neither or disagree. For a good place to start a business, again, this was that question that we had a lot of did not know responses on. It was generally mixed across age groups, which we can see on the right-hand side here. However, again, we found an area of opportunity with perhaps our younger business owners to connect them with resources and economic development and bring those marks up. A really interesting one was the welcomeness. If you'll recall, we were sub 50% on Janesville being a welcoming community to all, regardless of race or religion. We found that age did not statistically affect any attitude to that question. We did find, however, that education level affected that. So lower levels of education had a higher probability to agree that Janesville was a welcoming community. And folks on the higher end of the education spectrum were less likely to agree with that statement. The length of residence also predicted attitudes. That is something that I'd be really interested to explore further. So basically, if you had lived here for 5 years or lower, you had a sub 50% chance of agreeing with that statement. So certainly an area of opportunity to explore. And interestingly enough, at least in our statistical analysis, race did not affect the perceptions, with the caveat being that we skewed very white on the response or on the respondent demographics. Next area of focus, community events and activities. This was by and large a good one. 56% of residents agree that Janesville offers a range of arts and cultural activities. Further, 61% agree we offer a range of festivals and community events. And then 50% again agree that Janesville offers a range of sporting activities and events. 25% sat that one out and said neither. And in terms of shopping, 61% of our respondent residents agreed that Janesville is a convenient place to shop for everyday items, i.e. groceries, run to the store quick. And then 38%, which is below 50 but still a majority, said it was convenient to shop for major items like cars and appliances. In terms of city services and programs, this is certainly the most in-depth in terms of what we found statistically for our demographic indicators. By and large, our city services received very high marks. 81% indicated they were satisfied with the JFD, 78% indicated they were satisfied with the police department, 67% indicated they were satisfied with municipal utility services. Our low mark, as many could expect, 44% were satisfied with the quality of our roads and infrastructure. Parks and rec facilities enjoyed a 77% satisfaction rate. Rec courses only had a 46% satisfaction rate, but again, I'll mention that 42% of respondents were neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, so perhaps folks that just do not interact often with the recreation division. And then the Hedberg Public Library enjoyed a 73% satisfaction rate. This one was another really interesting kind of point to drill in on. It was the importance of city services to the perceptions of Janesville as a good place to live. So how important are the services to the quality of life of our community, basically? 94% again said fire and EMS are very or extremely important to our quality of life. 91% said the police department was. 86% agreed that the utility services are extremely important in quality of life. 77% who were dissatisfied with the quality of the roads did agree, however, that they're extremely important to the community's quality of life. Parks and rec facilities, 64%. Again, rec courses and programs, only 38%, but a high moderate importance of 39%. And then a majority, 57%, agreed that the HPL is important to our community's quality of life. In terms of should the city raise, maintain, or decrease funding for services, so the actual money question of it all, after everybody considered their satisfaction, how important they perceived the service to be, we then asked, should we raise that funding, maintain it, or decrease it? And in every category, we got maintain. So almost 70% for fire EMS, almost 60% for police, 80% for utility. 60% of respondents, interestingly enough, indicated that we should maintain our current funding for our roads program. Interesting being that it scored lower on the overall satisfaction, but perhaps some indicators that respondents feel like the current road rehabilitation program is working or is satisfactory to them. And then again, 66% for parks and rec facilities maintained, 61% for rec courses, and 70% for the library. Actually getting into the nitty-gritty to see what respondents were more likely to say based on their demographic profile to these service questions, we found age indicators for satisfaction in the performance of fire and roads. So the three oldest age groups were more likely to be satisfied with the fire department. And age 65 plus was actually the only group to indicate that they were satisfied with the quality of roads, which I thought was an interesting perspective. For the PD, again, all categories had a high probability of satisfaction. However, the most likely groups to imply that neutral on the performance of the police department were those 18 to 24-year-olds. And then the highest probability of dissatisfaction, while still being much lower than the satisfied respondents, was in our 25 to 34-year-old age group. We found age and gender indicators for our rec program performance. So kind of bookending it, 18 to 24-year-olds and 65 plus are more likely to give neither satisfied or dissatisfied responses to the performance of our rec programs. So perhaps an area of opportunity to explore there. And then females are more likely to give a neither or a satisfied response to rec programs. than their male counterparts. So additional efforts could probably explore why that is, perhaps explore rec programs that maybe reach out more to male residents in the community, or try to expand our offerings in that area. Age indicators, again, present for the Hedberg Public Library's performance. Most likely to be satisfied were those folks in the 65 plus category. The library is really knocking a home run, I would say, with those folks, because they were very likely to be satisfied. Moving, I think, to the importance question. So remember, how important are these services to the quality of life? Again, age and gender indicators for fire EMS importance. Across all age groups, high importance overall. However, older groups were more likely to say that fire and EMS are pretty important in the quality of life in Janesville, which kind of makes sense. And females were slightly more likely as well to favor the importance of the fire department. In terms of roads, again, high importance across all ages. Those 18 to 24-year-olds and those 65-year-olds were most likely to say very important. The gender indicators then appeared as well for the rec and the public library. Females, again, more likely to indicate importance. They're more likely to be satisfied, but they're more likely to indicate importance for the continuation of those services. Moving then to city leadership and employees and how the city communicates with our residents. Off the bat, 61% of respondents agreed with the statement, city employees treat residents with respect, which was certainly good to see. Only 38% agreed that city leaders are trustworthy, again, with about 30% of respondents indicating that they didn't feel one way or another on that statement. Again, almost 50%, 48% said city employees are well trained, while another 40% neither agreed nor disagreed. They might not know our training regimen. And 46% said that they agree city programs are well managed. That's number 4 there is kind of interesting, because then you get down to the last question, which is the city spends tax dollars wisely, and only 33% indicated that they agree with that statement. Area of opportunity, 47% said they do not agree that we do. Perceptions of city communications. As the communication specialist, this was my interesting category to review. 44% agreed that the city communicates effectively with residents. Not a high amount, I should say, of ambivalence here, though, because 35% just disagreed with that statement. So in this question, you were more likely to be one end or the other, depending on your worldview. The city is responsive to input from residents. Only 32% agreed, a majority, 41% disagreed. There are many opportunities to participate in local government. 38% agreed, so a majority did agree, while about a third, I should say, didn't feel one way or another. So an opportunity point in there to maybe get folks more involved and engaged. And then 60%, a nice high bar for our website. Those respondents agreed that the city's website is useful. So that redesign working well. This one will be real small, but I'll read it out to you. 31%, a majority of folks indicated they primarily get information from social media. Not necessarily a surprise. 23% indicated they go somewhere else online for that municipal information. And I believe 25%, indicated that they go to local TV, so they might watch cable or find folks over at JATV to learn more. Where respondents actually prefer to receive updates, I thought that would trend to social media, but mail actually got the highest return rate. Perhaps, again, our demographics for respondents skewed a bit older, but 32% indicated they would prefer to receive it by mail, while in second place we did have social media at 25% and email at 24%. Demographic indicators for that tricky trustworthiness question. We found that age had really no significant indicators. However, ages 18 to 24 again have the highest probability to find city leaders distrustworthy, and ages 65 plus were actually the most likely to indicate that they do trust city government, city officials, and employees. Education level again played a factor. Respondents with graduate degrees were broadly more likely to find that the city is trustworthy, And then as you progressed down to lower levels of education, that distrust response started to creep up. And then length of residence. Our sweet spot in the middle, actually, 6 to 10 years for the length of residence. Those folks are most likely to agree that city leaders are trustworthy. For the communicating effectively with residents question, education level, again, was something that was an indicator in statistical analysis. Graduate level respondents were more likely to agree that the city does communicate effectively with residents. And then as you move down, we get slowly more and more disagrees. And then an interesting caveat in the gender perspective, women were more likely to agree than men that the city communicates effectively. Men, as you can maybe see from this bar, were far more likely to disagree with that statement. Transitioning, city economic health and development. How respondents view the city's economy overall, again, 69% said good. We liked to see that. The dimensions of economic health and their importance to respondents was an interesting one. So 82% said the affordability of housing was extremely important. Availability of jobs clocked in at 89%, as did the strength of the local economy. 75% the strength of the regional economy. That was actually our low bar for level of importance. Cost of living, high bar, 92% indicated that that was extremely important for our economic health. Quality jobs, again, no surprise, 91%. And then the stability of property values, actually, just at about 80% agreed, extremely or very important. Agreement with promoting business development. This was kind of cool. It gave us a little snapshot as to where respondents would like to see the city prioritize economic development. Beloit Avenue, about 50%. One of the high bars, downtown, 64% of residents agreed we should prioritize the downtown as an area to promote for economic development. 50% said Milton Avenue was an agree. We should be promoting it. 41% said that North Parker Drive, US 51 stretch. Another high bar, Center Avenue, 71% agreed we should be focusing in on that area. Milton Avenue, again, perhaps not a surprise, folks said 32% agreed, but the majority of folks said that we didn't need to focus on promoting economic development in that area. And then West Court Street, again, rounding out the top three, 71% indicated we should focus on those areas. The extent to which respondents agree with statements regarding housing. This was also interesting, and I'll caveat it with the fact that about 90% of respondents indicated that they own their own homes, so we didn't get a larger amount of renters or folks who don't own their home to respond. 57% agreed, however, that programs are needed to support home ownership for low to moderate income persons. Programs are needed, again, to help low and moderate income persons repair or remodel their homes. 68% agreed with that statement. And then 54% agreed that housing in the city of Janesville is well maintained. So a majority of folks do think that properties are well maintained in the city. How should the city prioritize housing types? So that kind of got into the senior housing, duplex, owner-occupied area. 58% said more affordable owner-occupied housing, so a majority. Only 19% said that we should highly prioritize multifamily and rental housing. Again, a lot of homeowners perhaps that we'll delve into in the statistical analysis. 35% assigned high priority to senior housing. Again, lower bars for duplex at 10%, owner-occupied condos at 15%, and then the high bar, 63% said we should highly prioritize single-family homes. Statistical analysis to really delve into this. We found demographic indicators for single-family home priority. So across all age groups, it was prioritized quite highly by respondents. However, homeowners were much more likely to view it as a priority than non-homeowner respondents. Again, kind of the same thing skewing in for the duplex home priority. Ages 50 to 64 were the highest likelihood group to perceive a low priority for promoting duplex housing development, and non-homeowners on the flip were much more likely to view this as a priority than folks who actually own their own homes. Multifamily housing, respondents over the age of 35 had the highest likelihood of perceiving multifamily rental properties as being a low priority to the city of Janesville, while again, non-homeowners were much more likely than homeowners to view it as a priority, which is sort of intuitive. Demographic indicators for affordable owner-occupied housing, broad prioritization across age. However, respondents 18 to 49 were more likely to view that as a higher priority. And interestingly enough, we didn't find that homeownership affected perceptions in that category. So just some final other focus areas to round it out. We also asked a question about their satisfaction with local tax assessment. I truthfully thought that this green area, which is dissatisfied to very dissatisfied, would be much higher than it was, because a majority of folks, 38%, indicated that they were satisfied to very satisfied with their local tax assessment. So certainly a nice piece there. And then our response to the COVID-19 pandemic, as our organization kind of learns about our response and the things we did, we wanted to kind of gauge how residents perceived our actions during the pandemic. 56% were satisfied with the amount of information we provided on city closures and reduced hours. 53% were satisfied with the availability of programs throughout the pandemic, so certainly the majority of folks thought we still programmed pretty actively. 49%, just about half, indicated that they were satisfied with our online public meetings. 36% neither satisfied nor dissatisfied, perhaps hadn't attended one. And then 34% indicated they were satisfied with our support for small businesses. Again, the majority indicating that they didn't feel one way or another on that topic. So to conclude, for quality of life, residents do find that Janesville is a safe place to live. They find it's a good place to start a family. They perceive our economic condition to be favorable. They throughout those economic indicator and questions, you could tell that the sentiments were that we were in a good place. But we do have an area of opportunity in community inclusion and welcomeness. Specifically, if we remember the statistical analysis, those newer residents perhaps are more likely to feel less welcomed to our community. Areas of development priority, respondents pretty overwhelmingly indicated that the downtown, Center Avenue corridor, and West Court Street corridor were places we should look to promote commercial development. They said we should prioritize single-family homes, again matching the profile, however, of our respondents. And that they said assistance programs, again, throughout every category and demographic factor, home purchasing assistance, property improvement assistance, those remain pretty important to our community. General satisfaction with city services, high degrees of satisfaction for our public safety departments, which was wonderful to see. They want us to maintain existing service levels and also keep in line with that current funding levels. They say city employees treat residents with respect, which was great to see. And there are areas of opportunity to perhaps, especially once we break it into statistical analysis, to improve communication and also the trust in leadership, how we can bring folks in and perhaps have them engage a little more with the city. At this point, before we wrap up, I'll pause for a second, ask for any questions, input, or ideas. Good audience, hearing none. I will go ahead and wrap up. Appreciate everybody in attendance tonight. Appreciate everybody watching from home or online on JATV. Thank you to Alan and his staff for producing this. Thanks to everybody who responded to the resident satisfaction survey. Assistant to the city manager, Erin Davis, for her help throughout that project, really assisted me with it. And it was a pleasure and much to do in the years to come.